Hey everyone,
Anyway,
welcome to the Hume podcast, Roles and Lols. For those of you who don't know Hume we're a recruitment training business based in Australia, and to date we have trained thousands of recruiters across Oz, New Zealand, and a bit of Europe.
this is going to be a 10-minute quick tips and tricks with hopefully some laughs along the way for agency recruiters.
Yeah, hopefully you enjoy, and if you ever have any topics you'd like us to cover in the poddy, please shout out. Otherwise, you'll see us every week on a Friday for 10-minute episodes. Hopefully you enjoy.
See ya.
Welcome to this week's poddy. You're stuck with just me today. Lucy is out doing what we're actually going to be talking about today, which is client meetings. For us, client meetings is one of the most important, I would say personally, the most important metric for us when it comes to business development. I would say history has taught me over my 14 years that once I get in front of a client, I'm able to influence a lot better. I'm able to move the relationship forward a lot quicker because I'm there physically in person, able to, in real time, uncover issues within their current process, whether that's recruitment or training, as we do. But without that in-person interaction, we find there's then required, if we're not doing the human personal interaction face-to-face, then the touch points that we have to make are so frequent and they take a lot longer before a client is converted. So personally, we have this huge push at HumeScope. Every 4 weeks, Lucy and I book out a whole week of client meetings, and this week we're in Sydney. And we've booked out 35 client meetings this week, and there's a real reason for that. And so this week, I just wanted to go through what we deem an effective client meeting and how to run it so that you're starting to increase your conversion rate from client meeting on to job one. First thing I would say is research. Pre-client meetings, you absolutely need to be doing some form of research that's intelligent. Now, by that, I mean, you should be going in armed to your client meetings with a good baseline of research done so that you can utilize that research to start the conversation intelligently and remove yourself as just another recruiter. As an example, if any of you listening utilize LinkedIn Recruiter or one of their paid products, pre-client meeting as a bare minimum, I'd recommend going to LinkedIn Recruiter, doing an insight search on that business. Where have they recruited their staff from in the last 4 years? What's their average tenure? What's their split of staff? How many in marketing? How many in accounting? You should be armed with this information so that you can utilize these talking points within your conversation. So that would be my first step. Find out basic research on the business as a whole, where they've had their staff before, what the average tenure is, and we'll talk about how you utilize that information shortly. Second, I'd be looking on your database. What interactions has your business had with that client? You should know this information. What jobs have you picked up? What jobs has the business not placed? All of this information you need to be going in armed with. Thirdly, I'm going to be looking at the person that you're meeting with. What's their history? People love talking about themselves. So you need to be going in armed with, okay, I know that you worked here. Is there any commonalities? Do you know anyone that used to work in the same businesses as they've been in? All of this sort of little talking points you need to start building up a few, I would say between 5 and 10 talking points for that meeting. And it could be based on someone's history that you're meeting with. They've worked at XYZ company, you recruit for them, or you have placed with them before, you know someone in there. It's all little talking points that build that trust and familiarity. Once you've done your research, guys, in your client meetings, my top tips is utilize the research to then further probe rather than, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Client, tell us about you, your business. These are basic questions and don't elevate your conversation. So I would be going in with, look, I've done some research. I've noticed this about your business. 90% of your staff across the marketing team have come from businesses like Coles, Woolworths, those bigger organizations. How has that worked for you guys? Is that a profile that you typically look for? That is elevating your conversation and showcasing your specialization rather than you saying, I'm a specialist. No, showcase your specialization by providing intel that you have picked up on. Then, based off of those little talking points, I would be moving the conversation forward based on open questions. So try not to have closed questions. Do you recruit? Not the right type of sort of question that you should be asking. But how have you recruited the last few roles in your marketing team? That question will elicit a much more detailed response, allowing you to pick up on little inflections in someone's tone of voice or their body language. And by that, I mean, if you ask, how was the process for your last 2 hires? I noticed that you recruited in your marketing team. How was that process for you? It's your job now to pick up on not only the content of what they're saying, but how they're saying it. So if your prospect goes, look, Ez, it was actually okay. Look, we pretty much managed to find the right type of people. We utilised 2 agencies and it was good. That for me will tell you there's something wrong because they didn't say it with confidence. They didn't go, oh, it was an amazing process as we utilised this agency. They were really on the ball, blah, 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 blah. So there's something wrong in what they've said. It's your job to further probe. Oh, great. That's awesome that you were able to find the right people. Can I ask what sort of timeframes you were working on? How did it affect the team if they tell you it took 8 weeks? That's all these little things we need to be picking up on and probing further to find the chink in the armor. Because once we've done that, guys, we can then tailor our pitch to what you've identified has been the issue in their last few hires. And tailoring our pitch is so important. There's no point us reeling off everything about what we do, because if the client doesn't see it as valuable or doesn't address a challenge or a pain point, it's not going to hit home. So that's how I would effectively run a client meeting. Obviously, there's so much more to it, but that's kind of the baseline of what I would suggest a good, effective client meeting would look like. And if you're looking for sort of a breakdown, we've got a few templates of specific questions, how we'd structure that whole meeting. So if you do want it, please reach out. We're more than happy to share it with you. But otherwise, we'll see you next week.